Ah, Civivio, a game that somehow still exists, a game that used to boast over 10,000 players and could fill a maximum lobby in a matter of seconds, and had a lore to die for in the minds of some Civivio players. Now it's just a huge shell of its former self, I guess like a lot of IO games. But I think Civivio in particular is quite different. I mean, look at this, another game with seasons and a bunch of cosmetics that don't really mean anything in the end. This just copies every IO Battle Royale ever. It went through at least 2 years without seasons in place. And let's not forget the amount of ads that are on this screen alone. 1, maybe 2 is enough. But hey, at least we get to play Animation Throwdown, which is just a sloppy pay-to-win game. I would know. I've played it. At least when they advertised their own merch, it made sense. But do you really need 5 on the same screen? Also, does this game even get updated anymore? I genuinely don't know. But if this is to go by, it is not looking good. As I've said before, the game peaked at around 10,000 players, maybe even more than this. Now, it barely reaches 1,000, or it just barely reaches 1,000 at different times. And since maybe the last 2 years or so, it appears that they focus more on cosmetics and a market for these cosmetics over the gameplay itself. But what about the gameplay? Well, truth be told, it is not much different from when it first started, but it has certainly evolved over time. Duos mode only spawned 2 teams, which is not the best indication, but it is also a clear indication of how dead the game is. Classic mode barely even reaches 10 if not 20 players, and whilst modes like Cobalt and Potato mode sure have a lot more players, which makes it a little more playable, it is still nowhere near the maximum limit of 80 players. A game should not have to depend on special modes and events for the game to be active. If the game is actually really good to play, then there will be more players regardless of the mode. And whilst I gave the new developers the benefit of the doubt over 2 years ago, I firmly believe that hacks and scripts still exist in this game, as I know for a fact that this particular player would not be able to spin like this for so long and so consistently throughout this session. And trust me, I've played this game long enough to know how the character movements work. By the way, if you truly want to know how dead this game is, a game called Survivor.io dominates the Civivio search list. A mobile game made this year dominates the Civivio playlist within the past year. The first Civivio video to come through is the 7th option. 7th. The Civivio channel is the 10th option. Make your own judgment. And while I know games come and go, whether it be IO games, which are considered a niche in gaming these days, or mainstream level games like Fortnite, as an example, it appears that the decline of Civivio, I would say, is one of the most devastating, in my opinion. Here you had the gameplay, which was legitimately good, very simple yet very effective, but just by looking at the homepage, I firmly believe that Civivio is not the same, no more. The game that I used to play does not exist. Not in the capacity that I remember it, and while many Civivio players, new or old, may or may not agree, I cannot help but think that something is very off with this game nowadays. Just from the few hours that I've played within the last 2 weeks. Don't get me wrong though, I still have fun playing this game. Nowadays I just love to troll and mess around, and maybe cause the occasional elite player, or so they claim, to lose the match. I am only speaking as someone who used to play this game repeatedly for 2 years. I saw a lot of the updates, I saw players come and go, I saw the handover to a new developer, and I cannot help but see the decline. I am not blaming anyone or anything in particular. I am just stating what I have seen with my very own eyes. I may still continue to play this game, although sporadically, but it really will not be the same again for me. The old Civivio does not exist. In with the new Civivio, I guess. What do you think?